Good evening, all. As the leader of a small developing nation in 2021, paying tribute to a woman whose contribution to our world I don't think we've quite come to appreciate fully, I can't help but wonder if somehow Shirley Chisholm possessed a crystal ball. How else can one explain in today's context the absolute relevance of that famous statement that she made 2 generations ago? If they won't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. At that time, Shirley Chisholm was referring to the challenges faced by blacks, by women and other minorities in the United States. Today, many of the prejudices that drove them still exist, regrettably, for too many of us. As small, vulnerable nations, we are being constantly deprived of that coveted seat at the table. And yes, if we are to overcome the challenges of being ignored or being treated as though we're invisible on matters that are critical to our capacity to flourish, then as small nations, we must take her advice and bring our own folding chair. We have no choice, my friends, but to be bold. That never-say-die spirit that allowed us to survive the harshest trials that history could throw at us must once again enable us to grab our folding chairs and camp out on the steps of those who seek to deny us what is rightfully ours as equal partners. In the face of COVID-19 and all the inequalities that it has thrown up and exposed, the climate crisis, and indeed the impact on the least offenders being denied access to the concessionary funding that is needed to fight the climate crisis, we cannot allow ourselves to continue to be treated as though we are invisible. No, not when we've had her experience, her example, and we're now guided by her legacy. Not when we know that we as people of African descent are made of the same spirit that breathed into her, the fire in her belly, as we would say here, and created the woman that we celebrate and honor today. I am delighted by this opportunity to say how much we appreciate what she has done for women, people of color, for the Caribbean region, and of course for the United States of America. She was a kindred spirit who made us proud, all, whose achievements gave voice to our dreams and aspirations, and who today, her message is still as relevant as it was 50 years ago. Shirley Anita St. Hill, as she was born, is as West Indian a name as they come. She spent, yes, her formative years in Barbados. In recalling her parents' decision to send her to Barbados to her Barbadian grandmother, she remarked, and I quote, "Granny gave me strength, dignity, and love. I learned from an early age that I was somebody. I didn't need the Black Revolution to tell me that," unquote. That is a statement that many of us in Barbados are familiar with because many of our grandparents and our parents have reinforced that in us. For me, it is even more special because I spent 2 years living with my grandmother in the district right next to the district where Shirley Chisholm was raised. I in Sergeant's Village, she in Vauxhall. And indeed, that message was as clear to me then as I'm sure it was to her. And for that, I felt that we had a special relationship because that's what little girls are made of when they see people that resonate with them and reflect their dreams and aspirations. But she wasn't only Bajan, and it wasn't only Barbadian values that shaped her. She was a Caribbean woman. In many respects, the Jamaican activism that she was exposed to in her politics of her father who, by the way, was an ardent supporter of Marcus Garvey. And this background, therefore, of how she was raised and what she was exposed to in terms of activism, coupled with her immense oratorical skills and her immense courage, made her entry, I believe, into politics and representation inevitable. Any analysis of her experiences broadens our understanding of the role that black immigrants, and in particular female immigrants, played in shaping both the politics and the institutions of the United States of America. Her entry into Congress in 1968 as the first black woman was an audacious step with massive import for the subsequent participation of black women in American politics at the highest level. At that time, Shirley Chisholm is best described as a catalytic force driving the changing face of American political interaction. As I said, I believe that her influence on me was not only as a little girl, but over the course of the 30 years that I've been in public life, I've had cause to use many of her statements, but the one that I've kept closest to me is a simple one, 3 words: unbought and unbossed. My friends, it has served me well. 49 years later, when President Biden chose Kamala Harris as his vice presidential running mate, he validated Shirley Chisholm's vision. I want to salute Vice President Harris for acknowledging the trailblazing path which Shirley Chisholm laid for her, as I know it did for me and many others to follow. There is no doubt that Vice President Harris, in winning her seat at the table, will build on this amazing legacy. However, that has not signaled in any way the end of an era of the folding chair. Remember, it is not a historical artifact. The fight, my friends, regrettably, is still very much alive. I want to congratulate, therefore, Madam Vice President, yourself, for as Shirley Chisholm did, you stand as a light to brighten the path for all women, old and young, regardless of where they are in the world, regardless of where they have come from, but recognizing that that example shall inspire all of those little girls, just as the example of Shirley Chisholm inspired me as a young Barbadian girl in a district next to the one in which she was raised. I pray that the spirit of Shirley Chisholm shall long live within us, and that she may inspire another generation of young girls to reach the very, very highest heights. Thank you.